My mother, Lois Florence Clark, um, as a little girl, had very many exciting and sometimes humorous stories that she would share with me. I would like to record another one about her and her clothing habits as she was growing up. In those days, as I've said before, she was born in 1925, and little girls could only wear dresses. So when she went to school, if it was whatever the weather, you had to wear a dress, even if it was very cold. If it was hot, you had light knitted stockings that you wore, held up with a garter belt. If it was very cold, your mother would knit very warm, hefty socks to be held up with a garter belt. And everybody had them. My mother just didn't particularly like them. And so as she was watching, she had the great idea that when she decided there was bushes along the way. And so as she would walk to school, one day, the little garter belt holding the stocking up that her mother had carefully knitted for her. It was very cold, and she felt the garter belt slip, and the stocking fell down around her ankles. And so she had this great idea that would be so much more comfortable for her. So she peeled the rest of both stockings off and hid them in the bushes that were along the road. And she went to school with just without her stockings. And she said she didn't think anything about it. That's just what she did. It was cold, she said, but that was so much better, she thought, than having to worry about stockings and the garter belt letting loose sometimes, which was so embarrassing. Anyway, she did that for probably, I think she said about 2 weeks. And on the way home from school, she knew where she had deposited her stockings. She'd pick them up out of the bushes and then put them on to the best of her ability and fasten them to the garter belt again. Then she'd go home. One time, though, one day, after a couple of weeks, she got home and her dad asked her, he said, Lois, do you know what I happened to see in the bushes along the way to school, where you would be walking to school? I found your stockings that Mom has very carefully knitted for you, and they were laying in a little pile along the road. And he says, did you remember taking them off? And Lois admitted, yeah, she did. And he said, I want you to know that you always need to wear stockings. That is warmer and it's more appropriate than if you go to school stockingless. And so my mother knew that maybe she'd been caught. And so she was not real happy about it. And her father, knowing that she wasn't very willing to hold to that tradition, he said, let me tell you, Lois, what will happen if you continue to do those kinds of things. You have to wear stockings, because if you don't, Mother Nature will take over. And when you are growing up and you marry and have children of your own, all of your little girls will be born very hairy, because nature will try to keep the babies warm. And that's what's going to happen to them if you don't wear your stockings. So please be sure to wear your stockings so you don't have hairy little girls when you're growing up. And my mother sort of believed that. She didn't take her stockings off too much. She said unless the garter belt broke, then sometimes she would. But she said she didn't want to have hairy little girls when she grew up, because she knew that would be how it would be. The end.